pay attention. I have a special treat for you guys. Lance Thonvold.
Yes. If you're going to do one thing today to change your life, it's get with God.
Love it.
The things that you do in the dark is really who you are, right? So be working more on that than you are your reputation, and your reputation will precede your character.
What's going on, my people? Welcome back to the It's Not Dead show, because it isn't dead. Today, I have a special treat for you guys. Lance Thonvold.
Yes.
He's an amazing guy, a friend of mine. I know him because he's an amazing entrepreneur, as well as a motivational speaker, and the founder of the Planted, Not Buried movement.
That's right.
Which I love. And more than anything, a family man.
That's right.
So
Family
welcome.
is first. Jonathan, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yes.
Super pumped to be here.
Yeah.
And just dive in, man. So let's get this thing rolling.
Amazing. Well, man, I mean, today I really wanted to bring you on because I know you have your own podcast and your movement.
Yeah.
And I really want to talk about, like, you know, values and what is really making people successful, but more than anything, communities, you know, and actual, you know, basically society, right? What makes society great? And sometimes we think it's just one person. Obviously, it's a lot of different parts. Yeah. But what makes us great, you know? And when I think about that, it's about values, right? It's what value makes you great. What you think got you to this point where you're a father of 2, soon to be 3. Yep. You know, you have a wife. You have obviously, you know, successful business. Yep. All these things is like, what got you to that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I when you talk about values, I just immediately think back to my parents. Yeah. Right? Grew up in Minnesota, Eden Prairie, just a suburb outside of Minneapolis. And they just, you know, they took us to church, right? We grew up Lutheran. I'd say my mom was the spiritual leader of the household. But my dad definitely had spiritual disciplines. My dad embodied hard work. Right. He was in the banking industry, worked for the same company for over 30 years at Wells Fargo. So he did a lot of good there. But what I got to witness from my dad was somebody who had spiritual disciplines, hard work ethic, great attitude. Those type of things are the things that he instilled within me. Now, my mom, I would say that she really gave me the spiritual training, right? Bible verses in my lunchbox, Bible verses on the counter. Bible open on the table, right? Praying before dinner, right? So that my mom really instilled that within me. So even when I had lapses of faith and I fell away from the faith in college, or just didn't have that close relationship with God, I had those. It was still within me, right? Those values were within me, and then just what was modeled from my dad, I definitely try to do today with that work ethic, dedication, drive. And desire. And
I love what you said there about, like, your mom and your dad, right? Because sometimes we live in a society where we think, oh, no, you only need your mom, or you only need your dad, or whatever, right? But in reality, you know, like, talking about values and traditional values, you need your mom and your dad. Because I cannot, you know, if I ask you right now, it's like, do you think you'd be the same person you are without your dad? You'd say,
absolutely
heck no,
not.
right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and same thing without your mom, right? Putting those Bible verses in your lunchbox, man. I mean, that's amazing.
Every day. I mean, like,
I love that.
I mean, yes, and like leaving me notes, text messages in college, just of Bible verses. So those type of things I'm trying to do now for my children. And you know, just from the spiritual side of this, I just want to share something with you. You know, if you look at spiritual leadership inside of the home, right? It's great for a mom to do it. Right. It's great for a dad to do it. Now, the statistics of children becoming spiritually fit or following God when only the mom is spiritual, the statistics are far lower than if the husband is the spiritual leader, if the father is the spiritual leader. If the father alone is the spiritual leader in the household, the statistics drastically increase on the chances that the child will follow God. With mom, at some point, it becomes a choice. With dad, the house follows. Wow. Now, when you have both, now that's when you got a recipe for success. When both mother and father are following God and leading the family, now the probability of that child growing up in the faith is very strong. Now, that's not to say they won't ever fall off, but them wanting to follow God and coming back to God are very high.
So what does it look like? Like, for example, you have a family.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how old are your kids, by the way?
So Radlin's almost 4.
Okay.
And then Ranger's almost 2. Perfect. So they're both December babies. And then our third one will be here sometime in March.
So let's say, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Let's say, they're already, in the teenage years. Mm-hmm. How do you plan on leading your family as a man, mm-hmm. right? Leading your family spiritually. What does that look like? Like, hey, let's say grace, before dinner, you've mentioned that. What else? I mean, what else?
Yeah. Well, I think if you look at any habit or any discipline, it takes time, right? And sometimes it needs to be maneuvered, right? Correct. Sometimes it needs to be changed or we got to tinker with it. So laying the foundation now, my children are young. I can't speak to having teenagers. I don't know what that's going to be like. Yeah. But what I can speak to is the foundation that I'm starting right now with my kids. So, I get up really early in the morning before the family does, right? And I'm in the Word of God. Like I'm reading the Bible. I'm praying. So if the kids come down, that's what they see Dad doing. The first thing is I'm surrendered and I'm submitted to God. So there's no other thing that I'm doing early in the morning.
Listen to this, guys. I'm asking him a question. I'm saying, hey, what do you think you should do for them? But he starts with him. Yep. He says, hey, first off, I got to pray. I got to read the scriptures. I got to do something for myself before I can impart that or give that to my kids. Mm-hmm. So pay attention.
Absolutely. And just for a little tip for any of you, like, well, where do I start with God? Right. There's this app called Pause and it plays like this really beautiful music. You can even have Bible verses in the background. But one thing that I'm working on right now is this formula called tacos. So Thanksgiving, like you give thanks to God, you give adoration to God. So like adoration meaning, well, why am I even breathing right now? Yeah. Like look at these mountains. Look at the stars. Yeah. Like God controls galaxies beyond the earth. Like he's incredible. So you give God adoration. The C of that is confession, like confessing your sin. Humble yourself before God. Mm-hmm. Those who are humbled will be exalted, and those who are exalted will be humbled. Yep. Right? So, and then O, pray for others, and then S, pray for self. You pray for yourself last. I love it. Right? But you go through that formula. I'll probably do that for 10, 12 minutes, and then I'll get right into reading the Bible.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So no more tacos, eating tacos, but like actual spiritual tacos.
Yes, right. That's right, baby.
Well, that's great, man. Yes, okay, so then at that point, just to basically kind of like have an understanding, mm-hmm. then at that point, obviously you basically share that with your family, mm-hmm. right? And lead from the front, basically, right?
Exactly. Yep.
By example.
Exactly. Leading by example is the way to build the values in your home. In my opinion, you have to do it yourself first. Yeah. Right? The last thing I'm going to do, the last thing Steph is going to do here is hire a fat trainer.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to match what you're saying with what you're doing.
Correct.
Right? You have to practice what you preach. Yeah. So Kaylee will get in the Word early in the morning after she wakes up. She'll be in the Bible. She'll be doing her devotional. Yep. Right? So then naturally, the kids, they see that. Are they old enough to do that right now? No. They don't even read. Yeah. Right?
But they're watching.
But they're watching. Now, one thing I will say, the next habit and discipline that we have is prayer. Yeah. Right. We will pray before our meals, mm-hmm. and we will pray before bed. Mm-hmm. Right. And now, even as a 2-year-old, I see Ranger before meals. He crosses his hands and he says, Papa. He says, Lala. Mm-hmm. He says the people he wants to pray for because he knows we're about to pray.
Correct.
Even before bed, he's doing the same thing. Yeah. And Radlin will say, no, Dad, I'll pray tonight. Yeah. And she's not even 4 years old. Yeah. But it's easy to give up on those habits because you don't see any fruits. Yeah. But we didn't give up on those habits just because my kids were 0, 1, and 2. And we're like, oh, this is crazy. They don't care. They're throwing food everywhere. It's like, yeah, but their soul's being fed. Like they're about to eat, but we're about to feed their soul with the Word of God.
Yeah. And we're spiritual beings, just like we need to eat protein mm-hmm. and all the things that we have to eat, vegetables, whatever. Yeah. Right. We also have to eat spiritually.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And just understanding that part, I think it's crucial for people to just to know, Yeah.
And I'll piggyback off of that. I think this is a good analogy, is we have to empty our plate. Mm-hmm. Right? You look at all the different food groups, right? Protein, carbs, fat, vegetables. Yeah. Like there's certain things like, bump that. I want to miss that.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. I don't really want to eat that. Yeah. But you eat it, there's a huge benefit for you.
Correct.
Right? My wife, there was a point in time she was really into these carrot salads. And I'm like, babe, I can't do a carrot salad. But she was super into it. And she's like, Lance, you don't understand.
Yeah.
You don't know what this is doing for my insides.
Yeah.
So she ate it regardless of the taste and regardless whether she really liked it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times in life, there's things that get put on our plate, Jonathan, that we don't necessarily like, but we need to start consuming it, and we need to get it because there's a nutritional benefit for us, for our soul, and for our life that we're going to get on the other side of consuming the things we dislike. And 100%. That's discipline.
Yeah, 100%. And just to wrap it up when it comes to the spirituality real quick. So going to church every Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. Some people say, hey, you don't need to go to church to be with God, and they actually don't go to church. Mm-hmm. Why would you recommend people taking their families to church every Sunday?
Yes.
Is there power in that?
Oh, there is very much so power in the church. And I think I'll start with why don't people take people to church? Okay. People don't because they've been hurt. People don't because they don't like religion.
By another human, right? They've been hurt by another human.
Yeah, exactly. You've been hurt by another human. God didn't come through for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a common one. Mm-hmm. I gave up on him. Somebody died. This bad thing happened to me. I'm done with church. Yeah. But the reality is, the reason you should go to church is to be in community with other believers. There's power in that.
In numbers,
Power being in community with other believers, right? If you're missing, you're like, man, I don't know what I'm missing, right? Is it more money? Do I need to be in better shape? I promise you, it's being in community with other believers, right? So that you can go there and all of you are worshiping the same God. You're not worshiping the pastor. The pastor is a human. He makes mistakes. He sins. He will do bad things, right? It happens. He's a human. They're not God.
Not at all.
But he's trying to do his best to serve God. And everybody who's there is also trying to do the same thing. So that's why I believe church is so valuable and so important. Yeah. Now, can somebody go to church and, be a sinner and be a bad person? Absolutely. Every single day. Yeah. Right? Can somebody, not go to church and have a great relationship with God? You can. Yeah. You can. But you want to be around other people who think the same way as you. I mean, that's just where you're going to be at church, right? You want to get ripped and chiseled, right? You're going to find the ripped and chiseled people at the gym and you hang around them, right? But you want to be spiritually fit. You also got to be hanging around people that are at far greater levels of spirituality than you. Yeah.
And it's funny because, not funny, but interesting. The small town I grew up in, would go to church every Sunday. My parents would take me. And the brothers, older people would go there to church. And I cannot tell you how many times that saved me from, basically making stupid mistakes. Yeah. Because I would be there, on a Monday, on a Tuesday. I'm not in church, I'm in a small town doing my thing. Yeah. And there's brother such and such, and he's looking at me. I'm like, oh, I can't do this right now. You know what I mean? Yes. And it's just that accountability too, right? Yeah. Not only going there, but also outside, right? Yeah. Because you don't want to be just like a Sunday, believer or a Sunday member, right? It's like, it's an everyday thing.
Yes. Absolutely. So, absolutely. And I think that's another reason why people don't go is the thing you just said. Well, I don't want to be judged, or I know accountability. Those people were actually holding you accountable to you doing the right thing.
Correct.
But I think a lot of people don't like church or don't like God or don't like the Bible because they're like, well, I don't want to give up the things that I love.
That's right.
Right. And they're like, I don't understand why that's bad. Why is that a sin? Yeah. And I don't want to be judged. Yeah. Right. And then we get so caught up on not sinning that we forget to, pursue the source.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing I would share with people is like, let's not focus so much on not sinning. Let's just focus more on pursuing God and who he is and his character and his nature. And when you pursue God, naturally things that don't benefit you in the long run and benefit your soul will fall off if you want a true relationship with God.
Yeah, 100%. So now talking about translating that into the real world, right? Even though this is real world, but the actual business side of things. How does that help somebody? And let's also get into talking about your movement, right? The planted, not buried, which again, I love.
Yeah. So in business, I would say all of the biblical values drive what I do, right? I want to operate with integrity. Like I want people to get the best experience when they come in contact with me, whether that's through a cold email, whether that's through a Zoom appointment, right? A follow-up call or a speaking engagement. I want them to get the very best version of Lance. right? And for me, if I take care of my spirit, I take care of my body in the gym, I eat the right things, I'm going to show up the very best version. I want the experience of Lance, the brand, my business, to be excellent.
For sure.
In all things. And I want to operate with integrity.
Integrity is super important, man. And I think that that's a value that maybe as society we've lost, because we're after either the money or we're after recognition. I know that we were talking about reputation versus character, right? We're after reputation, which is all ego, right? But integrity just says, hey, man, I care about the output and I care about my community more than anything else. You know what I mean? So is the output good, right? Is it going to benefit my community? So those are the things I feel like, it's going to really help somebody understand, why am I being integral, right? Why do I have integrity? And at the end of the day, man, I think when you look at integrity, it's just basically doing what you said you were going to do. And that's such a concept that people may think that's just common sense, man. But it isn't, right? I mean, like people say now, it's like common sense is not so common anymore, right? So with that being said, is being integral is, again, doing what you said you were going to do. As simple as that. Delivering. So why do you think that's such a hard thing nowadays? Like, just to deliver on what you promised?
Well,
because it is. I feel like it's an epidemic or a pandemic even. You know what I mean? I've seen it every day. I see it every day with either people within my company, sometimes in my community, sometimes even at church, right? Why is that happening to our society right now?
Standards.
Okay.
People have different standards, and the whole movement of my truth. So when you take a foundational principle outside of our life, like the Word of God and what truth really is and the standards of truth, now anything goes. So when anything goes, then anything becomes accepted. So if anything's accepted, right, the standard can be at any level that you place it. One thing I say too, and I challenge people with this isn't the nice part of my message, but in today's world, I truly feel like our standards, the bar is on the floor. Like
there's no bar anymore.
The bar has not gotten off the floor.
Correct.
And you got to get sick of something. Right. You got to get sick of something to want to change.
100%.
Right. And I think we got to raise the bar in our life. And I think that's why we have people who, one day they'll follow through, but the next they won't. And they won't be consistent, or they'll quit too early. Right. But, fruit takes a long time to bear.
Well, and for those of you running businesses, as we do, you guys understand that if you don't have somebody that's consistent, like somebody shows up today but doesn't show up tomorrow, you training them and then the next week does the same thing, that hurts your business more than anything you would think, okay? You could be crushing it when it comes to sales, but if you, in the delivery side, you don't have it right because you don't have the people you can trust, it's tough.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, you have a huge business here. How do you hire people that are trustworthy? I want to know, like, there's got to be a formula. I talk to principals and administrators all the time on, like, we need to get people of character in the building to lead our athletes, to lead our school, right? Because I work with colleges, I work with professional teams, I work with high schools. And I'm like, how do you hire for character? How do you do it? There's got to be a formula.
It's tough
for you.
Yeah, it is definitely tough. First off, you have to recognize your sense of inadequacy. Meaning that, hey, I'm not going to get it right every time.
Wow.
Because that's ego, man. Like, when you're saying, I have a formula, or anybody that says that, right, they don't really. Now, when you've done it for a while, right, then you actually start recognizing the telltale signs. Oh, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. And just based on red flags, you already start knowing, hey, this person is not going to be a good fit for my culture.
Wow.
Right? So once you get those things out of the way, now you're only left with one or two people. And then once you have those two people, more than likely, those people are going to be right. Okay? So instead of focusing on what the right things are, look at the red flags And I think that that's really gonna, take you and bring you to build an amazing team.
That's incredible advice. Like what you don't want. I talked to an athletic director yesterday for an NAI school in Kansas. We were having a great conversation.
Correct.
He got 130 applicants for the football head coach of the football team. Think about that. And he's down to 3. 130 from Division I teams, from NFL teams to coach an NAIA football team. 130. Right. And I'm down to 3. And he's looking for particular things.
Yeah.
He's looking to people who can develop. His thing was, I want to find people that can develop men here.
Yeah.
If we win football games, it'll be because we develop men.
Exactly.
That's what he was looking for.
Yes.
He had his idea, and he's been around, so he knows what not to look for.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about developing people at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You're never going to find somebody that out the door, coming through the door, they're going to be 1,000% right. They're not going to be, right? Yeah. You're going to be like, okay, but I have something to work with, right? Yeah. And that's the key. There's this book, Dan Sullivan. Okay. He talks about it's who, not how.
Who, not
I don't know if you've read it, but anybody, please read this book. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And he talks about this exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It's the who. It's how do you have the people around you? Wow, that's how you're going to leverage and go to the next level. Yeah. It's not going to be the how, because you have the best, you know how to do. You have the know-how. At this point, I really know how to, like in solar specifically, I know exactly what to do. Yeah. But if I have the right people around me, I'm never going to go to that next level. You know what I mean? So that's very important. So just shifting gears, going into planted, not buried.
Come on.
Please tell me about that, man. I think it's such an amazing concept and actually movement. So please talk to us about that.
Yeah. So Planted Not Buried was birthed out of my story, right? I played Division I baseball, got drafted by the Seattle Mariners, and now in 2015 I'm out there killing it, right? I'm in the minor leagues. I'm working my way up. 2016 I come out. I'm 3 days away from breaking camp at the Peoria Sports Complex, and I throw a ball, and I've never felt the pain like that before. And it's just burning, fiery sensation all down my right elbow. I take myself out of the game. I'm walking back to the training room trying to figure out like what's going on, right? 7 days later, I find myself in a bar in Tempe, at Arizona State University. My buddies were running cross country against ASU from University of Minnesota. I'd left school early. And because I wasn't playing, because I was hurt, I met my future wife. Yep. And I met my future wife in a bar. Her mom made her go out that night. She lived at home. She was on the dance team, but didn't go to school or didn't live on campus. Yeah. Her mom was like, no, you told your friends you're going out tonight. So the Lord was using my mother-in-law to send my future wife to the bar, and I met her, and I was in a dark place. So I want to remind anybody that's, in a dark place right now. You might be in a tough season in business, tough season in relationship. There's still light going on. There's still a big light in the background of your life. There's big things that are happening that you can't even see right now. And that's what was happening for me, right? God had sent me literally an angel in the form of my wife. Yeah. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Yeah. I was finally ready to receive, what people had been trying to tell me my whole life is, hey, your worth and value isn't attached to baseball. Yeah. Your worth and value isn't attached to your business. Yeah. Right. And, she started to take me to church, right? She started to transform my mind. It's like, I grew up in it, but God really wasn't in me, right? I grew up in the church, but the church wasn't in me. I served a genie God. Like I just wanted things from him, right? And if you got to start there, start there. Yep. But I didn't have a true relationship with the big homie upstairs, right? I didn't have a true relationship with the big coach. But she started to help me pursue that real relationship with God and understand that my worth and value didn't come from baseball. Now, where it gets crazy is I rededicate my life to Jesus, right? I say, God, you take everything. You take baseball. I'm sick of this anxiety. I'm sick of depression. I'm sick of feeling good when I play good and feeling bad when I don't. Right? And I think some of you can relate. You're sick of feeling good when you got money, and you're sick of feeling bad when the business goes down. Right? And I wanted that peace. I wanted that stability that I could only find in God. Right? And I rededicated my life to Jesus. But here's the crazy part. This is where Planted Not Buried comes in. After that moment, and I rededicate my life to the faith, I changed my entire mindset, right? I'm like, hey, no longer is baseball about me and my ego. Baseball is about me using this as a platform to serve other people. From that moment
at that
forward.
Point, you thought you were buried. Because you're in a dark place, right?
I'm in a dark place. I'm totally buried.
Yeah.
I rededicate my life to God. But then from that moment forward, this is the difference between the two, is for 3 years, I'm hurt. So after I rededicate my life to God, right, I'm like, okay, God, you take me to the major leagues, I'll preach your name. Like, no. I had Tommy John. Then I had PRP. Then I had stem cell. Then I had a loose fragmented bone, right? Then I had a stress fracture. 3 years I was hurt. 3 years. I just want you to think about that. Right. Imagine being at the top of your game.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in the Seattle Mariners clubhouse. Robinson Cano is there. Nelson Cruz is there. I'm in the building. I'm not in the major leagues yet, but I'm in the building, bro.
Yeah.
I've made it to
the next step.
I've made it to a significant point in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm knocking on the door.
Yep.
Now, I'm around these people. I'm at the field, but bro, I can't put the cleats on. I can't even throw the ball because my elbow won't cooperate.
Yeah.
Now, this is the difference between buried and being planted. Most people would feel like, and I was around a lot of people who went down into the dumps and felt like they were buried, right? Because if I were to watch two people right now, in a garden and they're both digging holes, you would go, Jonathan, I wonder which one's burying something, which one's planting something. But you don't know.
Can't tell.
You don't know. The process is the same, right? They're digging a hole. It's deep. It's dark. It's watery. The process is the exact same, but you don't know the difference between being buried and planted until you know what goes in the ground. Because when something's buried, you're admitting that it's going to decay. You're admitting death for something that you bury. But with something that you plant, you're admitting life. You're admitting there's at least opportunity to grow. And this is where our young people get tripped up. This is where our entrepreneurs get tripped up. They go, wow, I do not like this process. I don't like what I'm going through right now. But the reality is you got to flip your mindset and realize I'm being planted. I'm developing a root system that's going to hold my future harvest.
100%. And, it goes along with our show here, which is It's Not Dead.
This ain't dead.
Right? It's like you gave.
You're not dead. You're planted, baby.
Yes! That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Come on.
So, I love that, man. I love what you said there when it comes to like, sometimes when we're in the darkness, we don't really see the light and we need somebody else to help us there. It's all about that sense of community, and if you don't have that community, it's really hard for you, right?
Yes.
To be able to, you're just not putting yourself in the right place with the right community to take you out of that dark place, if that makes sense. Now, obviously it's going to require effort from you guys or from you, right? To actually see that, right? But I love that concept, man. It's such an amazing concept.
Thank you.
And then at the end of the day, it's like I always tell people, it's like, okay, you are planting something, Let's say, what's your favorite fruit?
I love apples.
Apples. Okay. Yeah. So we go right now.
Yeah.
Get out of here. We go and plant apples. Okay.
Yeah.
The actual seed.
The apple seed. Yep.
Okay. And if I say, hey man, tomorrow we're going to come back here. We're going to see an amazing tree bearing fruit. What would you think? What would you think of me if I said that?
You're a wacko.
I'm crazy.
Otherwise, Elon Musk designed some sort of time travel that I don't know about.
100% you would think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Why? Because it takes time.
Ooh, come on.
You know this.
Come on.
Right? You know this, right?
Yeah, it takes time.
So how long does it take? For example, I don't know how long, like 7 years for a tree to grow, basically, and then another 7 to actually bear fruit?
Yes.
14 years, brother.
Yeah.
But then at that point, it's, yielding, and then the following season is yielding more, and it's sweeter and sweeter as the seasons go by. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The problem is like a lot of us just don't want to go those 14 years. I'm making up a number, right? I don't know how long it takes. But let's say 14 years. We don't want to go through those 14 years.
Yeah, and I think also too is we want to eat our fruit. I want to ask you this, Jonathan. What does an apple tree consume?
Water.
Water.
Yep.
Right. The apple tree doesn't eat apples.
No.
The fruit is for others. So when you take that mindset,
that's amazing.
If you take that mindset that the fruit is for other people, what I am producing out of my tree, out of my trunk is not for me. It is for other people to consume the fruit, right? But the tree needs more water. It's consuming water all day long, right? It needs with the nutrients in the ground, the nitrogen in the ground. That's what it consumes to produce fruit. It doesn't eat its own apples. It gives them away. So we got to live a life of service, Jonathan. Our life is for other people. Yeah. Our fruit is for others. It's for your family. It's for the good of the community, right? Yep. What good is it that you thrive and you're successful, but everything you buy is for you, right? How silly.
Yep.
If we're doing well in business, we should find a way to steward it.
Yep.
Find a way to feed other people.
Yep. I'm part of this group. It's called a strategic coach, which is Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
And he says, something that stuck with me before even I got into it. Yeah. It was that he said, hey, by the second year of like these entrepreneurs going through my program, they stopped talking about money.
Yes.
Money is no longer an issue.
Yeah.
Not because of anything, because they just don't look at the fruit anymore. Because they understand that the fruit is not really for them. It's the value that they're bringing into, again, the community, the society, right?
Oh, yeah.
So just to wrap it up, man,
yeah.
This has been amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Just to wrap it up, traditional values, bring success, okay? Yes. So if you think that traditional values are not going to bring success, you think that's old-fashioned, the Bible was written 2,000 years ago, or hey, the Constitution was written 300 years ago. Whatever that is that you're thinking is like, that is the wrong mentality. And this is the reason why I came out with this podcast.
That's right.
And this movement too, is because I want to teach you and tell you that it is all about long-term and traditional values.
That's it.
Okay? It's not about, hey, let's forget about that. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It does work. You know, and we see it with empires that fell. Like the Roman Empire, Egyptians, them all.
How about the Diddy Empire?
Oh my gosh.
That's
ridiculous.
You reap what you sow.
100%.
Right? You can't sow darkness your whole life.
Yeah.
You can do it for 30 years.
Yeah.
He did it for 30 years.
Yep.
But what was going on in the background was
horrible.
Yep. But he made money.
Yeah.
His reputation was good. Right? On the outside, he looked good, but how was his character?
It wasn't good.
Right? So it will catch up to you. I just want to tell you, like, your character will catch up to you.
Correct.
The things that you do in the dark is really who you are.
Yeah.
Right? When you're driving alone in the car and it's nighttime and you throw the bottle out the window, that's really who you are.
Yeah.
Even though when you're around other people, you'd never do that.
100%.
The things you do in the dark is really who you are. The things you do alone is really who you are. So be working more on that than you are your reputation, and your reputation will precede your character.
I love that. What's your handle, man, on Instagram? And
at Lanny T42, LANNY 42. My books are on Amazon. You're Being Planted, Not Buried, and then Ranger Plants a Seed for the little ones. But you can find everything under Lance Thonvold.
And the show is also Planted,
Not Buried. You can find that on all avenues where podcasts are produced.
Yeah, Spotify, whatever.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Please make sure you give him a follow. Man, I just want to wrap it up basically with a question to you, man.
Yeah.
It's like, for everybody out there, man, and just talking about values and just finishing with that, is what is the one, and I know that it's a lot of values that make you who you are.
Yeah.
But is it one thing that you would recommend people start doing today? Actionables.
Start doing today.
Correct.
Simple, man. If you're going to do one thing today to change your life, it's get with God.
Love it.
If you're going to do one thing, it's get with God. The rest will follow. Ask God what he thinks about you.
I love it.
Ask God what he thinks about your business.
Yeah.
In your relationships. Ask God for help. My goodness. Right? Ask God for help.
Yep.
And even if you feel like you're crushing it, you're actually in the most vulnerable and dangerous position
100%.
When you're crushing it.
Everybody's coming after you.
Right? Yes. And we start to believe that we are our own God.
Ego.
Right? Ego.
Yeah.
Edging God out. Right? Yeah. So I would say whether you're successful or you're trying to be successful, whatever, just get with God, and then the rest will follow, and just really try to get to know him. Not the blesser, but who brings the blessings. It's him. Get to know him. Not for healing, not for blessings, but just get to know who he is.
Yep.
It'll change your life. It's changed mine.
Mine too.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine too, 100%.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, man, for being here. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in or watching. Till next time. Thank you, brother.
Yes.